Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, we're alive. It's the day after the Armageddon apocalypse, end of world, all that kind of stuff. Things seem to be pretty normal. In fact, it looks to be so far a fairly slow news morning. Who knows? I'm sure something happened yesterday other than, the moon flying in front of the sun, but, who knows? Something probably happened somewhere. Weather here today, for those of you that are concerned with my weather reports, thunder off in the distance, getting a little bit of sprinkles this morning off and on, but we're supposed to get some rain. That's always a good thing this time of the year to fill the ponds and creeks and the groundwater, because growing season is nearly upon us. I mean, it is. You can obviously see the greening of everything, and some things are already going in the ground. But we're real close. We're like a couple of weeks away before it's just nonstop, full on getting things in the ground and producing. Getting back to producing. That's the beauty of spring and early summers. We get to turn around and become producers. We got sheep that have been lambing now for about a week. We've had, in fact, this is interesting. Some of you might think that there's significance to this. I don't know. But yesterday during the eclipse, I wasn't here. I was obviously, I mentioned yesterday I was on some 911 calls, emergency calls at that time. But when I got home, my family let me know, the children let me know that right as the eclipse was happening during that kind of significant time period, one of the sheep, one of them lambed. We had a little lamb born during that time. So that was kind of cool, I guess. But, we go from being consumers over the winter time, because we're consuming all the stuff that we stored away, to being producers. And so that's always an exciting time of the year. Get your hands and feet back in the dirt. That's just my little therapy is getting to grow food again. I want to talk about a subject that some of you enjoy and a lot of you just get tired of, but it's an important one, and it's trying to understand. And this is a lot for a lot of you that just don't get it, of the importance of building relationships with other people. I know this is not going to be a popular video. I know that I'm probably going to get nasty comments. I always do when I talk about this. But I'm telling you, this idea that we should all just be lone wolves is not natural. It's a relatively new concept. I mean, there are certainly cases in history. If you look at the westward expansion of America, there was certainly people that went off west by themselves, kind of the lone wolves, pioneers, the mountain men kind of thing. That did happen. Not as often as the books and the movies and stuff portray it, but it did happen. But the vast majority of human existence, we have been communal. And I'm not talking hippie commune. I'm talking about communal, that we lived and worked and played and everything together as a community. And it was typically in a small community. This idea of large cities is also a relatively new concept. I mean, certainly have always been big cities. You go back to even in ancient times, there were large cities. But the majority of human existence has been focused on the small little community. That's how we were made to be. Okay, you're not going to convince me otherwise. And here we are entering a phase of our world where things are falling apart. They're getting bad in every aspect. I saw this morning that gold this morning broke above 2380. It's come back down a little bit, at least when I checked it, but early morning hours it broke above 2380, and silver $28. So we're watching our currencies change. We're watching the value of things change. We're watching the politics. We're watching the social fabric, the social structure morality. I mean, it's not changing, but the perception of it is changing, meaning that, well, now it's okay to, with children and, having changes, sex changes, and, those things are okay. They're not, but the reality is trying to, I think you understand what I'm saying. This perceived reality that morality has changed, when in fact it hasn't. But anyways, we're going through some massive upheavals. That's part of this reset. I've told you before, a reset is not changing things. A reset is bringing it back to zero so that they can build something new. That's what they're doing. I saw also that I think there's a new Prime Minister of Ireland. I think I'm correct in that. Young guy. And I guess in one of his first speeches, he said that they're going to reset everything, reset it. That's part of what this is. And so we're watching the whole face of our existence going through this, a new change, which history has shown that has happened before. And it can be very destructive, even if it potentially leads to better things. That time period of change is it's upheaval. It's resetting things. And it's gonna get worse. It's bad. I know that's doom and gloom and blah blah blah, but it's just reality. It's gonna get worse before it gets better, if it gets better. And, we could be in the final leg of this whole ordeal, and it just doesn't really get better. Especially if we're following any kind of timeline that's talked about in the Bible, then I think most of us know where we're headed in this. Back to my original point. We can prepare physically by, acquiring goods and things to store away, developing skills. I talked about gardening, things like that. Those are very important. But the reality is those are kind of natural. It's only been in the, last 100 years or even less that humans have drifted away from that. Before then, it was just necessary to survive, to grow food, to produce things, to be able to do on your own. That was just, like eating food and drinking water. It was just normal. Community was really something that people had to build. And it's difficult because people are different and they don't always get along. And, they rarely actually get along for the most part. People they have their own ideas, and everybody wants to be the boss, and a lot of people don't want to do the work that needs to be done. They just want the successes and the protection of a community. But it's hard. It's a lot of work. And I'm telling you that this should be a very high priority. And I know that most of you are going to say that you live in areas where there's no one else like you, that you just can't find anyone. And I have two answers to that. Number one, there probably are people in your area. You just gotta look harder. And number two is that, well, then move out of that area. And I know that you're like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. No, it's not. I understand that this is that important. I mean, humans have migrated forever. And a lot of times the migration of them has been to move to where there's, a better community, better people and stuff. So it's not that abnormal to do that. It needs to be a high priority, because as things fall apart and as things get worse, if you don't have a circle of people around you, even a small circle, it's going to be a lot harder for you. I don't care how good you are at surviving or how good you are at other type of skills. If you don't have people around you, it's not going to work. I think Hollywood has built up this idea that we can all be Rambos out there on our own, when the reality is that the real life Rambos of the world that's been in the military and other things, they're part of a team. They're not out there on their own rogue, doing their stuff. They're part of a team. And it's because you're extremely weakened and vulnerable when you're by yourself. And the strength increases so much so when you have other people around you. We really have to be focusing on this right now. And I think that it's critical also in the sense that just about everything that's come out of the globalists, the government, whatever you want to call them, is to discourage people from being part of a community. It's to discourage community, to disrupt communities, to tear them apart, to I don't even know the right word. It's just that they don't want it to happen. There's too much evidence going back over the last 50, 60 years where so many policies, inner city policies, school policies, zoning laws, all this kind of stuff has actually done more damage to small communities than anything else. Communities used to be circled around the local church, and maybe the local school, not the government school, but the local little school, things like that. And now they're not. Everything's bigger. Everybody goes to 1,000+ people churches that aren't local. They're not doing anything local. Schools, same way. They're all government indoctrination centers. And this idea that we have to isolate ourselves, that if someone in our family or neighbors or local community, they don't share our same beliefs, then we don't associate with them. We don't pull together. This has become very much the theme. Just think of the last 3 years. Don't get out of your house. Don't go to social gatherings. Don't go to grandma's birthday party. Grandma can't come over and hug and kiss the children. She could get sick and die. Blah blah blah. And we're going to see that again. Just yesterday, the CDC, it was announced or in the news that the CDC has met with the health department personnel of all the states, all the health leaders, and they're telling them to get themselves ready for the bird flu, for this avian H5N1 flu, that they need to get their plans ready and get everything in place to get ready for it. So it's quite possible we're going to see, a 2.0 pandemic, but probably worse this time. And I'm sure isolation is going to be on the menu. You gotta isolate yourself from people. This is something they want to do, even in the prepper community. The amount of backlash, I probably get more backlash from this subject than anything else I talk about. That I don't need community. They're dangerous. You can't trust people. They're going to stab you in the back. They'll take all your food. You're foolish. You're making people weak. This pie in the sky idea. There's hardly any area that is really supportive of this idea of people coming together, of people helping each other out. And yeah, it's risky. There's always risk involved when you have other people involved, but the benefit can way outweigh the risk. You have to be smart. You have to have some discernment. You have to be aware of that there are bad people out there that want to take advantage of other people. But in the end, bringing together the right group of people can make you just almost an unstoppable force. And it helps you and everyone in that group to be less and less dependent upon all these frail, fragile systems around us. And that's really the big deal, is that they want you dependent upon the electrical grid, the food supply system, the government, the healthcare, all this stuff. They want you dependent upon it so that, then they can control you. And when you have a group of people that are pulling together and their minds are working together, and you're putting physical effort into self-sufficiency, sustainability, you don't need those systems as much. And they know that, and that's why they hate it. And so I want to encourage you to the point of pushing you that now more than ever, you need to be making connections with other people. Yes, be cautious, be on guard. Don't just trust immediately, all those kind of things. That's common sense. That's always been that way. Not just now, it's just always been that way. But we have to be pulling together. We have to be finding each other that share similar interests, that share similar beliefs, and doing the best that we can to try to come up with a plan of how to guard ourselves and to brace ourselves from this thing that's coming at us, this reset, because it's going to get worse. I mean, you can call me whatever you want, but it's going to get worse before it ever has a chance of getting better. And we need to be ready for that. And it's more than just putting buckets of beans and rice in your closet. It's actually getting out there and putting forth the effort. And I'm telling you from personal experience, it's a massive effort. It takes a lot of energy to try to do this, to try to build relationships with people and build community and get closer, tight-knit together. It's tough, but it's well worth it. And it's something that we need to be doing to face this evilness that's just all around us, folks. It's time to get our houses in order. And time to start preparing ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.